Oh, welcome back, everybody. It's Friday, episode 73
Yes.
of the Below Average Joe's MMA podcast. I'm joined, as always, by Dominic Salee. The end of another week. How are you doing, my friend?
You know, the weather's starting to warm up a little.
It is.
So the sun's out, and, that's making the moods better.
Sun's out, guns out. Am I right?
Yeah, why not? Never too early.
No.
And we've got another great fight card this weekend. Honestly, this one, top to bottom, is pretty damn solid, especially the main card. So excited to start breaking this down with you. But since sometimes I don't and sometimes I do ask, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. I'm good. Just the week's been kind of flying by. Been staying busy at work, and we've got a 3-episode week, so I've had a lot of my time has been taken up, and I'm happy about that. I like being on the move.
Staying active.
Yeah.
Like a Hamzat, or not a Hamzat anymore, like a Kevin Holland.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But glad to be back here with you, previewing some fights. It's a big one Saturday.
I love it.
Headlined by some big boys. Jairzinho Rozenstruik taking on Ciryl Gane.
4 events in the month of February. 3 heavyweight main events.
Yeah, it's very interesting the way the UFC has kind of went about the schedule. It's like each month you kind of have something to kind of attach to. This month heavyweights.
This
Next
was the
month
theme.
it's all title fights.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unreal. But we start with this one here, and we will break down 6 fights. It looks like the main card's kind of getting shaken up a little bit.
Got shooketh.
So it looks like we're going to be previewing our 5 main card fights and then 1 prelim that was supposed to be on the main card, but whatever.
Yeah.
But before that, it's time for the news.
The news.
All fight announcements, and boy, do we got some good ones.
There are some good ones and 2 really big ones.
Mm-hmm. We start with March 13th, UFC Fight Night. The originally scheduled matchup between Ryan Hall and Dan Ige is off. Ryan Hall, his woes, and
they continue.
They continue. I don't know if we'll ever see him fight again.
It's a shame.
However, not all to be sad about, because Gavin Tucker is replacing Ryan Hall to face Dan Ige. A huge opportunity for the up and comer.
You're talking about a change in an opponent. You're going from a grappling submission specialist to a dude that's just going to stand and bang.
I have no
stands
doubt.
And bangs.
No doubt that Dan Ige is going to be ready, though, and that he's the kind of guy to just take this full speed ahead.
Yeah. His first fight back since losing Decatur, so he's looking to make a statement. That's on the same card. That's now Leon Edwards and Bilal Muhammad. And I'm telling you, a little over 2 weeks out, but Gavin Tucker, Dan Ige, that's low-key. Not even low-key. That could be fight of the night right there.
Yeah.
That's banger.
I wouldn't even say a sleeper fight night, but I guess it could be. But, I mean, it totally has all the makings of it. Gavin Tucker coming off the biggest one of his career, but this is a huge step up.
Yeah.
But a guy who also made quite a leap last year was Dan Ige. Kind of went from relative newcomer, Dana White, Contender Series veteran.
Yep.
He gets an opportunity against Edson Barboza. Barboza trying to go down in weight to featherweight. Ige gets a controversial split, or I think it was split decision.
It was split, yeah.
Controversially, he wins that fight. Then he gets somehow, I forget how it worked out this way, but he gets placed into a fight night headliner with Calvin Kattar. Pretty sure Cater's original opponent fell out. I forget kind of the
whole debacle.
Yeah. But Dan Ige gets placed there, and they end up having a great fight.
It was.
Even though it was a fight that Dan Ige would lose, and we just haven't seen him since. So here he goes. He's fighting a little bit back down, but Ige was placed. He was kind of pushed so quickly and kind of got that lucky win in some ways over Barboza. So I think it's smart to kind of, even though he is ranked,
still tone it back.
Yeah, because, I mean, that Barboza fight didn't necessarily answer everybody's questions, and then he did lose 4 out of 5 rounds against Calvin Kattar.
Yeah.
So, keep these kind of opponents, I think, make a little more sense. With Gavin Tucker, who's still working his way up. And for Gavin Tucker, you have no reason not to take this fight.
Yeah, you're all over it if you're Gavin.
Yeah,
so.
And very much looking forward to that one, though. We move on. April 24th, UFC 261. the women's flyweight title
We've been waiting on it.
will be on the line as Valentina Shevchenko defends against Jessica Andrade.
The women's title fight right now. Now we're just waiting on Rose and Wei Li.
Yeah.
But this was the one. We've been waiting on this. This, at least on paper, should be Valentina's toughest opponent at 125 pounds. Jessica Andrade is just going to come at her like a freight train, an absolute bull in a china shop. Valentina's the patient, technical Muay Thai striker. I don't even know. This fight could go so many different routes.
It could, and the way that I see it going in my head, or not exactly, but just...
You're way too early.
Yeah, there's prediction. A lot... No. I don't want to act like it's that, but in my head, like, I could totally see, like, we're really hyping up this fight. I could totally see Valentina starching her, like, within a minute. Just because the way Andrade fights, it's very much kill or be killed. And that has left her open before against Wei Li. Even for the majority of the Rose fight, she was getting pieced up before getting kind of a lucky KO slam. But that's the X factor with Andrade, is that she can pull out that kind of strength that you don't... and power you don't really see a lot in the women's divisions.
She's never gonna back down. She's
no,
just gonna keep
and you know
coming.
her stature is so unique. You know, she's so short, but yet she has such a nice base where she's very strong and powerful. So she does kind of get the upper hand on a lot of these fighters because what was kind of the thing in football? Low man wins.
Right.
Low woman wins.
Yeah.
So a lot of times she is able to kind of just, I don't know, she's just got a very unique style to her.
Been there, done that. 3 weight classes.
Yeah, 3 weight classes.
Her second weight class for a title. Like, it's crazy.
She is the former
strawweight champion.
Yeah, so this is, you know, she's not. I don't think she's gonna feel under pressure in the bright lights.
No.
She's been there, done that.
That's such a good matchup.
And what makes it more interesting is Valentina is coming off of, you know, not to harp on it because she won 4 or 5 rounds, but probably her most disappointing title defense yet. So there might be some questions starting to peep their ugly head around, and I think Valentina might have something to say.
Yeah.
So I think that could be a great fight. UFC 261 on April 24th. Moving on, another women's fight here. May 15th, UFC 262.
The other Shevchenko.
Yep, Antonina Shevchenko getting placed against Andrea Lee. A very interesting matchup here because these are 2 women who I think have yet to fulfill their promise.
Yeah, and they're like on a collision course now. Both top 15, 2 great strikers. But what we saw of Antonina in her last fight with the dominant wrestling and grappling, she looked like an absolute beast in her last fight. But the fight before that, she got controlled and dominated.
And a lot of that might have been because she was fighting Caitlin Chukagian,
right.
That was a huge step up for her. But both these women have been touted as title prospects in the past, including especially Andrea Lee.
Mm-hmm.
And Lee's had a very mixed run of things. You know, she just can't seem to get over the kind of win one, lose one thing she's got going on.
And a lot unfortunate for her too. Always seems to find herself in some split decision losses. Just
I remember you talked about that on. I think we've previewed one of her fights before.
Just out of her last 3, 2 were split decision losses. Lauren Murphy and Joanne Calderwood, both. So,
and those are 2 of the potential next title challengers right there. So she could very well be there. But I think it's a big fight for both of them. Antonina, not a young lady.
Older than Valentina.
Yeah, she's like 35, 36. So even though she's relatively young in her MMA experience, she's kind of got a, you know, she's kind of fighting against the clock too in these matchups. So. A big one, though, I would say, but one that's going to go under the radar for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm now convinced if you see one fight announcement with one Shevchenko sister, the other Shevchenko sister will be announced shortly thereafter.
They just signed...
Because the last time they fought on the same card...
It's like the carpool to the contract.
Yeah, they train together and everything, so they're always going to be fighting the same time frame.
Yeah, interesting. But we move on to our final fight announcement of the day.
Oh, my...
UFC 263 happening June 12th. This is the first fight announcement for June that I've heard of.
Summertime.
It's a rematch.
Oh, boy.
Davison.
Oh, boy.
Figueiredo, I don't want to say dominant, but the scary men's flyweight champion he runs it back.
The assassin baby.
Literally, the assassin baby.
Yes, we're not making that up.
He's literally defending again in a rematch with Brandon Moreno. For those of you that don't remember, our final pay-per-view of 2020, UFC 256.
Second on our Fight of the Year list? Or third?
Yep, second.
Yeah.
Headlined by Davison and Brandon Moreno 1. That ended up being an amazing fight.
Mm-hmm.
But ended in a draw.
Yeah.
Probably one of the only draws in history of combat sports that I've been like, yeah, that was a draw.
That was a draw, yeah.
And here they run it back. And I'm glad that they gave them the time.
They get plenty of time.
Because both of these guys in that...
They took that on
They
3
went to
weeks'
war,
notice.
and they took it on after Davis had headlined the previous month,
Yeah.
and Moreno had fought...
the same card against
Roy Val. So...
Now they get 6 months.
Yes, I'm glad they get 6 months. I'll be very interested to see how this fight goes. You know, there's got to be a lot of factors in there with the fact that both guys were fighting compromised in the first one, you would have to say. But it was still an amazing fight.
You got to figure they're both coming to make a just statement, like a finish.
Yeah.
You know, no more decisions.
My biggest
Davidson.
takeaway of this announcement has got to be that I don't see this fight going 5 rounds.
No matter who wins.
Yeah, it's just I feel like both of these guys will not stay in there for 10 rounds. They won't be able to withstand it. But it's an amazing fight.
The flyweights go to war.
Yep, I'm loving it.
Oh, man.
That's UFC 263. Not sure if it's going to be our headliner or co-main, but happening June 12th. And anything else before we move on?
Let's break down fights.
That's the end of the news.
The news.
On to some fights.
Another UFC Vegas hashtag, Noah.
So unfortunately, we can't say 6-fight main card.
We can't.
But
we're going to give you 6 fights.
We are going to preview 6 fights here. Hashtag UFC Vegas 20.
They're adding up.
And I'm just going to go through the card real quick, and then we'll go fight by fight.
Tell them.
So our prelim card, prelim fight.
Good prelims.
Our prelim fight at women's strawweight. Angela Hill is back after her controversial main event.
Yeah,
Headliner loss with Michelle Watterson, going up against Ashley Yoder. Then the main card opens up at featherweight. Alex Caceres, believe that's Bruce Leroy.
Bruce Leroy. Man, what a veteran of the UFC.
The guy's fought everybody.
Yeah.
He's going up against Kevin Kroom, the... can I find his nickname? The hard-hitting hillbilly.
The hard-hitting hillbilly.
So this is another nickname off right here.
Yeah. Wow. Just when we thought Cuban Missile Crisis and coconut bombs was going to take the cake.
Yeah.
Bruce Leroy and the...
A hard-hitting hillbilly.
Holy shit.
Yeah. That might be...
No wonder they put it on the main card.
Yeah. After that at bantamweight.
Oh, baby.
How's this fight so low on the card?
This was supposed to happen on UFC 258, got postponed, and now
it's at the same spot. Yeah. This card. Pedro Munoz, Jimmy Rivera.
That's a huge fight.
This is the
That's
fight.
a big fight.
This is the fight I'm most excited for. I'll be honest. Then at women's flyweight,
yeah,
Montana,
De
La Rosa, going up against Mayra Bueno Silva. Hope I said that name right. One note about this card: this is the fight that Dominic Salee himself got the preview with Overtime Heroics.
This is true.
So if you follow either of us on Twitter, then you've probably seen that article getting shared around. Go follow Overtime Heroics. Support them. Support Dom. Listen to the article. It's very good.
I try my best.
The fight's happening third.
Hey, I put it in the article, and I'm going to say it on here, but that's your low-key sleeper for Fight of the Night, ladies and gentlemen. I'm being serious. Just wait on it, though. Wait on it. Next.
Co-main. Light heavyweight. Nikita Krylov versus Magomed Ankalaev.
Another huge fight.
This fight was kind of under my radar before we sort of had to go do some digging.
Yeah, then it just happened. Like,
shit. And then I kind of was doing my research, and I'm like, oh, this fight's...
pretty big fight here.
Pretty big fight. And then we end the thing off. Main event, heavyweight, the big boys, or should I say the Biggie boys.
The Biggie boys, yes.
Jairzinho Rozenstruik going up against Ciryl Gane. Amazing fights. But we start with Angela Hill versus Ashley Yoder. Dominic Salee, take it away.
I'm going to tell you.
Don't mess up.
That's what I was going to do.
Go ahead.
I'm going to tell you right now. I'm not going to mess up her record this time. No more clips of me looking stupid. Just kidding. There's going to be plenty more, but not this one. Angela Hill, Angela Overkill Hill, ladies and gentlemen. 12 wins, 9 losses, 5 KO TKOs. She's 7-9 in the UFC. There we go. I said it right. But it's not over yet. I think I can still screw this up. Notable wins over Ashley Yoder, funny enough. So this is a rematch a few years in the making. The first time she won via decision and then TKO'd Hannah Cyphers. So notable losses. She's been there and done it all, including a fight with Carla Esparza at the Ultimate Fighter Season 20. It was in the first round back in 2014, and she got submitted there. And then official losses on her record. Tisha Torres, decision. Got submitted by Rose Namajunas. Lost the decision to Jessica Andrade. Lost the decision to Nina Ansarov. A split decision to Courtney Casey. Got submitted by Randa Marcos. Lost a unanimous decision to Joan and Jan. A very, very controversial split decision with Claudia Gadella. And then, as Noah mentioned, her most recent fight, a 5-round war against Michelle Watterson in a main event slot. A very close split decision loss there. On the other end, Ashley Yoder, she's 8-6 with 4 submissions. She's 3-5 in the UFC. She does have 3 first-round finishes out of those 4 submissions. She's got a notable win over Miranda Granger. That was her last fight. That was via decision. And then in terms of notable losses, the Angela Hill loss. Lost a split decision to Mackenzie Dern, and then another split decision to Randa Marcos. What do you think here, Noah? A few years in the making, but we got a rematch.
Yeah.
Always interesting.
Definitely interesting that they're running this one back of all the kind of matchups you can make. However,
Angela will fight
Angela
anyone.
Hill,
She'll fight anyone.
You kind of just take what's given to you. And we got a big style clash here. Ashley Yoder being the submission artist of the two with the 4 submission wins, no knockout wins. Mm-hmm. The reverse is true for Angela Hill, 5 wins via knockout, no wins via submission.
Looked great in her stand-up last fight, too.
So it's very clear, in my opinion, kind of who gets the edge where, kind of what's each woman's route to victory. So it all just comes down to who has the least holes in her game and really just whose style will win out. And I think Angela Hill has got the style.
The way she's been looking recently.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't think that I don't think Ashley Yoder is going to be really ready for it compared to either of Angela's last 2 opponents, who both arguably lost the fights with her.
Yeah, it's crazy. You hear Angela's record, you're like, oh, 7-9 in the UFC, what? But it's like, you got to look at who she's fighting, and then you take into account there are some razor-thin split decisions, 3 of them, as a matter of fact, just in the UFC alone. She's always willing to step in, fight the toughest in the division, and always gives it her all, and like, as tough as they come, always in a war, it seems. Every fight that she's in.
And I think that this fight will be no different. I think Yoder will put up a good fight. But I think Angela makes a statement here. I'm going to go Angela Hill via decision, but I think it's going to be a very much 30-27. I don't think she's
decisive.
I don't think she wants to leave it up to the judges, but I just have a hard time seeing Ashley getting finished.
Yeah, I'm going the same way here. Angela Hill decision. I do think she's going to come out and look very good. I think she's coming in with a big chip on her shoulder. She was going hard to try and get the Tisha Torres fight.
Yeah.
And that fight fell through for whatever reason. Now she's taking Ashley Yoder. Already has a win over her. You got to think that's going to boost her confidence a little coming into this as well. Maybe Ashley comes out trying to prove us wrong, but I think Angela's going to really just have the advantage, especially if it stays on the feet. Mm-hmm. It's going to be all Angela Hill Saturday night.
I agree. We move on to the main card.
The main card.
So Alex Caceres going up against Kevin Kroom. Bruce Leroy versus the hard-hitting hillbilly Dominic. Take it away.
So Caceres is 17-12, 1 no contest. He's got 3 KO TKOs, 6 submissions. He's 12-10 with 1 no contest in the UFC. 3 of those 9 finishes have come in the first round, with notable wins over Sergio Pettis. That was via submission. And then also had a pretty decisive victory over Chase Hooper. That was a decision victory there. And then has some notable losses. Uriah Faber, which I completely blanked that those two fought, like in 2014 or something.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
And Uriah submitted him. He's lost a split decision with Yair Rodriguez. Got submitted by Jason Knight. And then also got submitted by Crone Gracie. On the other end, the hillbilly, Kevin Kroom, is 21-12 with 1 no contest. He's got 6 KO TKOs, 10 submissions. And then in the UFC, only 1 fight, and that was the no contest. 12 of his 16 finishes have came in the first round. He does have a win over Derek Minner, who we just talked about on last weekend's card. That was back at LFA 48 in 2018. He TKO'd him there. And like I said, his UFC debut was a no contest. That was against Roosevelt Roberts. This is an interesting stylistic clash here. Two seem to be well-rounded guys. Lots of losses on their records, but lots of wins on their records. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, their records are very ugly. I mean, I'll just be frank. They're not great records, but I think you gotta, dig a little deeper.
When you look into it,
and they have different stories. Caceres has fought a very much who's who of the featherweight division. He's fought a lot of guys on their way up.
And so active.
Yeah.
Always fighting.
While for the hard-hitting hillbilly, while not near as much UFC experience,
yeah.
A lot of these guys grow into it as they try to stay active and they just take their licks and keep growing. A good example of that would be Mr. Michel Pereira,
Yep.
who looks unstoppable right now. But he was a guy coming into the UFC with how many losses? He had like 8-10 losses or something. You never know. And for a guy like Kevin Kroom, I wouldn't sleep on him just because of his record and the fact that maybe, the lack of UFC experience is definitely something to be on the lookout
that's
for.
going to be the deciding factor for me, actually.
Okay, so what's your...
I am going Bruce Leroy here. I think Alex looked really good his last few fights. He is coming in on a 3-fight win streak. I forgot to note that on the notebook, but good thing it came to memory there. So he's riding a win streak here. He's coming in hot. Been looking very solid. He's coming off of a first-round submission win. I think he's going to get the job done here. The veteran expertise in the UFC is going to pay off. I'm going decision, however, for Alex Caceres.
So here's my thing with Caceres. He really comes out like a bat out of hell. Like, he just comes in there and he's immediately just, so active right away. But that leaves him open, especially to submissions a lot. I'm going Kevin Kroom.
Ooh.
First round submission.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, and this isn't to say that I don't think Caceres has a route to victory. It's the first round finishes. I want to kind of preface. It's not always because I think that someone's so much better than the other. Most of the time, it's because I just think someone's going to get caught, and that's the case here.
Yeah.
I think that Caceres, his style is very risky at times. He doesn't quite have the submission defense to be as wild as he is, and he just gets caught in a lot of them by good submission artists like Kevin Kroom.
Right.
So that's just what I'm going to go with here. Moving on.
Next up, the big one.
Pedro Munoz versus Jimmy Rivera.
Do people realize this fight is happening this weekend?
I don't think they do, because this fight's kind of been buried. It kind of
This
feels
is such
like
an important
it
fight.
kind of feels like the UFC was like, okay, this is like the third time we've had to rebook this thing. Just throw it on some card and get it over.
And if people see it, they see it. We're talking number 8 versus number 9 in the bantamweight division.
Yeah,
One of the best divisions in the UFC.
I'm very excited for this fight.
Oh, Pedro Munoz making his second appearance on our infamous Beloved Joe's MMA podcast. First one with the main event over Frankie Edgar. He's 18-5 with 1 no contest. He's got 5 KO TKOs, 8 submissions. He's 8-5 in the UFC with 1 no contest. He's got 8 first-round finishes with wins over Rob Font via submission, TKO over Brian Caraway, and then TKO Cody Garbrandt. Notable losses to Rafael Assunção. That was via unanimous decision. That was actually his UFC debut back in the day. He's lost a split decision to Jimmy Rivera. This is another rematch in the making. A couple rematches on this card. He lost a split decision to John Dodson, a unanimous decision to Aljamain Sterling, and then a razor-thin split to Frankie Edgar. So again, another guy, 3 split decision losses in the UFC to top-tier opponents. Jimmy Rivera on the other side, our best friend. We sat with his family back in Cleveland in 2016. We're tight, man. 23 wins, 4 losses. He's got 4 KO TKOs, 2 submissions, 7-3 in the UFC. 2 of his 6 finishes have came in the first round, with notable wins over Pedro Munoz, as just mentioned. A unanimous decision against Raya Faber. That's the one we got to see in person. Mm-hmm. He also has beaten Thomas Almeida via unanimous decision, and John Dodson, a unanimous decision, and then most recently Cody Stamann via unanimous decision. And then those losses have came to Marlon Moraes with a head kick KO, A unanimous decision lost to Aljamain Sterling, and then lost a decision to Petr Yan, the current champion.
Mm-hmm.
Another rematch, Noah.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I really did. But it feels like it's been a long enough. 2015, both these guys so young at the time in their UFC careers.
And tell the listeners why you were so excited for this fight at UFC 258, and then they just busted your bubble and you had to wait 2 more weeks. This was the fight that you were waiting for and looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to implications, for the division. I think these are 2 guys that could be fighting for a belt. After we saw Jimmy Rivera at UFC 203, I said this guy's going to be a future champ. I just thought he has a very safe style. He really does. Not that he hasn't been caught, Marlon Moraes, with the head kick. However, his style for the most part is very safe. He's very good at kind of getting the fight into his world. And once you're there, it's like it's really hard to get out. He takes you to those deep waters and just kind of holds you there. He's not quite got that finishing capability, but he will grind out a
He knows what he has to do to get a win.
And I wouldn't call him boring, but I'm just saying that he doesn't finish fights. I mean, look at it. He's got 6 wins via finish, and he's got 23 wins.
Yeah.
I think that speaks for itself. In the reverse corner, you got Pedro Munoz, who does finish fights at a good rate.
Yes, he does.
13 finishes and 18 wins. He's had a very interesting growth to his career, Early on, winning a lot of fights via submission. However, the Pedro we see today is
very well-rounded, heavy hitter.
Very well-rounded, but he's very heavy in his hands. I think a lot of that might be from his brother, Mark Munoz.
Yeah, true.
The very hard-hitting guy, too. So I think Pedro's had a very interesting kind of career, I don't know if resurgence or just in his rise here, where he's really been winning a lot of these fights on his feet. Sure, he's on a 2-fight losing streak right now. The Frankie Edgar loss still.
I thought he won.
He won, but I get it. But Pedro looked good in the fight.
Yeah, exactly.
While Jimmy is coming off that Cody Stamann win after being on kind of the first real skid of his career, where he had lost 3 of 4. So there are a lot of questions here, and I think it's fair to run this fight back. Both guys are much different fighters today than they were back then.
It's better when they're years removed. And then they come back
this is
at
6
it.
years ago, you might as well. And I'm going to go with the guy that I think has the best shot of being a future champion, Jimmy Rivera.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going Jimmy Rivera via decision here. I think Jimmy Rivera won the first fight, and that was back when Munoz had at least showcased more submission capabilities. I think now that you got the hard-hitting side that he's kind of at least shown more of in this later part of his career, I think Jimmy's going to look to keep that fight on the ground as long as he can.
Oh, yeah.
And even though Pedro is no slouch there either, I just think Jimmy's going to be able to get it there and keep it there.
Yeah, I think Pedro's coming in to make a statement. And I think he's coming in to say, you know what? I'm not a big fan of going to the judges' scorecards after that most recent fight with Jimmy, or against Frankie Edgar. I think he's going to come in, and I think he's going to get a KO TKO in round number 2. I think it's going to be a fun first round back and forth, a good feeling out round. I think Jimmy may even land one of those takedowns and potentially even control that round 1. But in the second round, I see Pedro come out. He's going to be able to clip Jimmy with something. Something's going to land, go in for that ground and pound. I think he gets it done. Second round, KO TKO for Mr. Munoz. Get back into his winning ways.
Yeah, definitely. We move on to women's flyweight, correct?
Yes, 125.
Montana De La Rosa versus Mayra Bueno Silva. Take it away.
This is a fun one. So Montana's 11-6, 8 submissions out of those 11 victories. She's 4-2 in the UFC. Wins against Christina Marks. That was her UFC debut. That was via submission. She submitted Rachel Ostovich with a nasty armbar. Another nasty armbar against Nadia Kasem, who was undefeated coming into that fight. And then her most recent win was Mara Romero Barella, who's a common opponent between these two, as we'll go over. And then that was via unanimous decision. So her only win in the UFC to come via decision, the other 3 via finish. Notable losses to Andrea Lee, who we mentioned in the news. That was via decision in a very fun stand-up fight. And then lost a fight that I believe she took on short notice or her opponent fell out, so Viviane Araújo stepped in on short notice, something like that. But she lost to Viviane, who's number 7 in the division right now. That was via decision as well. She's also a Tough 26 alumnus. She lost to Nico Montano on the show. And then some other losses outside of the UFC. She lost to Mackenzie Dern at LFC 61 in 2016 via submission, which, most people lose to Dern that way anyways. Right. And then also lost to Cynthia Calvillo at LFA 1 in 2017. That one was a TKO loss. And then 2 of those 8 submissions have came in the first round. For Mayra, she's 7-1 coming into this fight. 1 KO, TKO, 5 submissions, so 6 out of 7 via finish. She's 2-1 in the UFC and also has a victory on the Contender Series, so we could say 3-1. It's up to you guys. Her UFC debut was against Jillian Robertson, and she beat her via submission. And then, like I said, the shared opponent, Mara Romero Barella, she submitted her. And then her Contender Series victory was against Mayana Souza dos Santos, for what that's worth. That was another submission victory. Her lone loss on her record and in the UFC was to Mariana, I'm not sure how to say her first name, Moros, via unanimous decision there. All 6 of her finishes have came in round number 1. These ladies like to finish fights.
They do. They finish them at a good rate. Both of these women very good at submissions. I have a hard time predicting how this fight's going to go because you have 2 women that are very good in their grappling, very good in their submission capabilities. So when you see that, are they going to cancel out and we're going to get a really fun stand-up fight, or are we going to see these women really try to overwhelm the other with their style of grappling, like show that they're better on the ground? They want to try to prove something here. Either way, I'm picking this to be fight of the night. Being honest.
I love that from you.
Yeah, being honest. I'm picking it to be fight of the night.
I think this is going to be an incredible fight. People are going to sleep on this fight.
However, picking the winner is definitely kind of the harder part here. I think I am going to go with Montana De La Rosa, though. She's kind of proven more to me. And that's, not that I can't predict, kind of how Mayra's going to do here. It's more so just I haven't really seen it from her yet. Yeah, the Jillian Robertson win, great. Even the Mara Romero Barella win, great. Mm-hmm. And the fact that she has finished 6 of her 7 wins, it's very intriguing. Even 1 KO, TKO.
Don't forget about it.
But De La Rosa's fought a tougher crowd of competition. I think it might be just too soon for Mayra. I'm going Montana De La Rosa via decision.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm also going Montana via decision. If this fight stays on the feet, I'm really intrigued because some of the fights I've seen with Mayra, she's got heavy hands, spinning back kicks, spinning elbows, all that fun stuff. Montana can hold her own on the feet, but in her 2 losses, that was where, she ultimately fell short on the scorecards. But if she wrestles you, she's an absolute savage, and she's not one that just lays on you. She's constantly transitioning, looking for the finish and ground and pound and submission. So that's why I think this is going to be a really fun fight. It's a really good stylistic fight. And truthfully, the winner's probably going to be top 15 or fighting top 15 next. So there's a lot of good implications here. But I am going Montana De La Rosa via decision. Fun fact, the wife of UFC men's flyweight, or former, anyway, UFC men's flyweight, Mark De La Rosa.
Nice.
I don't know if he's still in the UFC or not, but I had to give him a shout out.
Yeah.
So.
Nice. We move on to our co-main event. Light heavyweight. Another sleeper big fight here.
Yeah, this fight really snuck up on us, but it's a huge fight.
Yeah, I mean,
Top
it's just
10.
It's a big fight for this division.
My goodness.
I mean, both of these guys aren't necessarily going to be, selling out arenas or anything, but big implications if you're talking for rankings, and tell them why.
Oh, yeah, so Nikita Krylov, an absolute perennial contender in the top 15 and top 10 of this division.
Yeah.
27 wins, 7 losses, 11 KO TKOs, 15 submissions. What's that, 26 out of 27 via finish, Noah?
25 out of 26.
25 out of 26? Not too bad. He's 12-5 in the UFC. 21 of those finishes have came in the first round. He's got wins over Walt Harris, which I'm confused. Did he come into the UFC as a heavyweight? Because I know Walt Harris wasn't light heavyweight, but he TKO'd Walt Harris. He KO'd Ed Herman, submitted Ovent St. Preux, and then got a decision victory over Johnny Walker. He has also lost to OSP. That was via submission. He got submitted by Misha Serkinov, submitted by Jan Blachowicz, and then lost a split decision to the ageless wonder that is Glover Teixeira.
This guy loses via submission a decent amount in the UFC.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a trend, huh? On the other end, Magomed is 14-1 with 9 KO TKOs. He's 5-1 in the UFC with 7 first-round finishes. He's got wins over Marcin Prokhnio via TKO, and then the Yon Kudaleba rivalry that they had. They fought twice, the first time via TKO and the strangest stoppage in UFC history. But when they rematched, he made sure to put his ass on the ground, and he KO'd Kudaleba there. His lone loss on his record and in the UFC was to Paul Craig in his UFC debut, and that was via submission. So coming into this fight, Magomed's on a 5-fight win streak.
Right.
What's happening here?
First off, Nikita Krylov completely slept on, including by me. The man's finished 25 of his 26
Listen,
wins.
man, it's another one of those guys that seem to get to that point, right? Mm-hmm. Where they're going to crack into maybe top 5 or get that big top 5 opponent next, but then they fall short. Yeah. It's one of those situations here again. It sucks.
Yeah, he's definitely kind of stuck in this 500 win one, lose one, win one, lose one thing.
Been in the UFC for years.
Yeah, and that win over Johnny Walker being his last fight did not necessarily incite a lot of confidence in me. Just a very dull fight. Neither guy really came out of that looking too great. I don't really know what Serkinov's plan's going to be here, but I don't... Some of y'all might try to pick Ankalaev via submission because of all the shit we just said with Serkinov.
Krylov.
Or Krylov. I do that all the time with Krylov. But I'm not going to be the one to do it. Ankalaev's going to be looking to keep this fight on the feet. So I think which guy... I think if anybody's going to try to get this fight to the ground, it's going to be Krylov.
Yeah, 100%.
However, I think this fight mostly stays on the feet for as
agree.
long as it lasts. I'm going Ankalaev via second round KO TKO.
Man, I struggled the most with this fight.
It's a tough one.
It's more so just because Krylov is always been around, again, that top 10 area. Magomed, on the other hand, is coming in for the first time.
So it's like a big test.
So it is a huge test for him. Will he pass the test? I do think he will get it done. I actually have Magomed winning via decision. I don't know if he's going to be able to KO TKO Krylov. As we see, he gets submitted a lot, but not too many KO TKOs. Has he lost by KO TKO? Once. And Magomed, I don't see submitting him, right? Yeah. So I think this is going to be a stand-up fight. Like you said, I think Krylov will look to get it to the ground. Magomed be able to keep it on the feet for the most part, control this fight, keep it at his pace. I think we get a fun 3-round war, but I'm going Magomed via decision.
Have you picked your fight of the night yet?
Oh, yeah, I'm going with the one I mentioned at the beginning, sorry. Montana and Myra.
Oh, okay.
My bad. I said it at the beginning and didn't say it during the preview.
I thought you might pick it there.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, Montana. And it's not just because I wrote about that one either. Yeah. I really think it's it's a slept-on fight. It really is.
Main event time.
Big E-boy.
Jairzinho Rozenstruik taking on Ciryl Gane.
Okay. This is a huge fight. This is a huge fight to finish February. Literally huge. To finish the month of February. There's so many moving pieces in the heavyweight division right now. And to cap it off with this fight, let's just get into it here. Jairzinho is 11-1. 10 KO TKOs. He's 5-1 in the UFC. 7 first-round finishes. He's got wins over Alan Crowder via KO. Alistair Overeem via KO. And then Junior Dos Santos via TKO. His lone loss on his record and in the UFC was to Francis Ngannou via KO. Ciryl Gane, on the other hand, 7-0. Very well-rounded here. 3 KO TKOs, 3 submissions. He's undefeated, well, obviously, in the UFC with 4-0. He's got 3 first-round finishes, wins over Tanner Boser via unanimous decision, and then a TKO over JDS in his most recent bout. Okay. What are we thinking here, Noah?
Okay.
What are you thinking?
Well, both guys are exceptional,
What a fantastic fight.
Yeah, I mean, both these guys are great. And it really kind of comes down to Do you value maybe Rozenstruik's competition more? He's fought tougher guys. Or do you value Ciryl Gane's potential more?
Yeah.
And both these guys, Gane definitely has a much wider range of weapons.
In terms of well-roundedness, I was going to say
he's got the submission capabilities.
Yeah.
However, well, I guess not really. However, he does have 2 submission ones in UFC. But my point is that his submission ones weren't necessarily against the highest level. He has shown that TKO ability over JDS, but that was, again, a JDS who had already went through Rozenstruik, who had already went through Ngannou.
That's both of their last fights, I think.
Yeah.
Was JDS, yeah.
So Rozenstruik, he's kind of what he's going to do. He's going to come in there, look to put you out with one punch, and apparently or be put out by one punch.
Yeah.
And that loss to Ngannou does stick in the back of my head. It does. But I don't think this fight's as one-sided as maybe I thought it was going to be going into.
This is a tough fight.
I was definitely, being honest, before we previewed this, I was all Gane. And then Rozenstruik really did start to kind of... He kept peeping into my head a little bit. I was like, I don't know. He might be able to do it. Gane is being pushed pretty quickly here. However, Gane has shown... in his last fight with JDS, that leg-kicking offense... I think is going to, if he continues to implement that, I think that could be a huge weapon for him.
He's just a guy that when I tune in and watch, I look at him and I think, future champion.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I see when I see Gane fight, and that's going to be the X factor here for me.
How do you think he's going to win this?
I'm going submission. I think he's going to look. I think he's going to see this one punch power that Rozenstruik has, and I think that Gane can keep it on the feet and win on the feet. But I think he's going to surprise some people. I think he's going to land a takedown. I think he's going to submit Biggie Boy in the second round.
I don't know if I can go with
and then fight Derek Lewis next.
I don't know if I can go with that.
Hey, that's my pick.
No, I know. I'm just like, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, for some reason, the idea of Rozenstruik getting submitted just like, I don't know. I'm going to go with Gane as well, but I'm going to go via second round KO TKO.
You think? Now, do you think like a one-shot thing, or do you think he's going to be able to pick the shots and TKO?
I think it's going to be picking your shots. Yeah. He's shown that he's not necessarily got the most power in the heavyweight division.
He just puts those shots together.
He's so good at keeping his distance, and then like the leg kicks were huge for him.
X factor.
And I think that's going to be huge for him here. Jairzinho, I could see eventually getting to a point where he gets frustrated, starts lunging in, then he'll get caught, finish with some ground and pound, game over.
Right. That's such an incredible fight, man. Mm-hmm. So with so many big implications, the way the heavyweight division is looking right now, the heavyweight division really is so exciting, more exciting right now than it has been in a long time, to be truthful with you, because everybody's being active. There's all kinds of movement in the rankings. John Jones is sitting there. We got a title fight next month.
It's a lot of moving pieces, and that really does help a division. So, including our title. It's been a while since we've seen the heavyweight belt be defended more than once a year. And while this is the first time of 2021, at least it's not a year later again.
And we're seeing the same people fight for the title the past 3 years.
Yeah, it's I get it can get a little stale,
We're looking for parity, and it's clearing up. This division is clearing up right now.
Agreed. But that is it for our preview of UFC Vegas 20, headlined by Rozenstruik versus Gane.
Tune into that one, folks.
Prelims start at 5 p.m., I believe.
Yes, sir. Main card at 8 p.m.
At 8 p.m. I just wanted
Eastern time.
I wanted to make sure I didn't change.
And I think it's also all ESPN Plus, okay. I believe.
I believe you are correct. But as for next week, Monday, we will recap all the action that we just previewed here. That'll happen Saturday night. We'll obviously give our prelim notable as well. And really delve into what's next for a lot of these guys on that card, because there will be a lot of people getting those rankings switched around, hopefully. Friday.
Oh, my word.
We're previewing what may end up being the biggest pay-per-view of 2021.
March is approaching. We've been waiting for the month of March, baby.
UFC 259.
Woo!
Not one, not two. 3
I almost said
title
3.
fights. Headlined by the champ fight. Israel Adesanya, the middleweight champion, moving up to light heavyweight to try to take Jan Blachowicz' light heavyweight belt. Below that, another champ. However, the champion is the champ already.
Yeah, right.
Amanda Nunes, the women's GOAT. She's defending her women's featherweight belt against Megan Anderson. And then probably the one I'm most excited for.
Been waiting on it, man.
The bantamweight title's on the line. Petr Yan looks to defend for the first time against Aljamain Sterling.
Tell them what else is on the card. You might as well.
The rest of the main card goes like this. Lightweight, Islam Makhachev, Habib, and co. have basically touted this man as the next one for the belt. He's going up against Drew Dober again.
That's a fun
I'm
fight.
a huge fan of Drew Dober, so I'm very excited for that one. We open our main card.
This is the opening fight.
At light heavyweight, Alexander Rakic going up against Thiago Santos.
Your guy.
Yes,
Looking to bounce back.
I hope so.
Oof.
Both of these guys coming off of Fight Night headliners, and now they're opening a pay-per-view, if that tells you the quality here.
Yeah. And if that main card didn't sell you enough, who's on the prelims?
Yeah, let me continue.
Yeah.
Prelim headliner, Dominic Cruz.
What?
His last fight was for a belt.
And now he's on the prelims?
Going up against Casey Kinney.
The most random fight announcement of all time, by the way.
Then, again at bantamweight, Song Yadong.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
Then at flyweight,
hello,
Joseph Benavidez.
Number 2.
Askar Askarov.
Number 3.
And I'm even going to give a shout out to the very first fight of the card. Rogerio Bontorin, Kai Kara France.
Kai Kara France is the first fight of the night.
And he was
just on the main card at 254.
Yep.
Against Roy
Put
Val.
some respect on Kai Kara France's name.
Ladies and gentlemen, this card is going to be bonkers, and we're going to be here to break it all down.
Yeah, we might break down every one of those fights.
Maybe every single one of them.
A record.
7-hour podcast episode.
Record-making podcast. But that's coming. Then, that's coming Friday. Until then, Dominic Slee, tell the good people where they can find you on social media.
Twitter, Instagram, at dslee14. Find the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at BAJ_MMA podcast. We're getting more active on there. We're interacting with the community, putting up polls, tweeting out results of fights. Follow us there for all of the MMA news.
Nice.
And, of course, we share our episodes there, too. So.
Yeah. As for me, if you go to my bio on Twitter or Instagram at ntbaker_, you'll be taken to our link tree, which gives you the links to all the platforms that the podcast is on, along with the social media platforms. That includes the Twitter, the Instagram, the YouTube channel, and Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcast. It's all on there, baby. And there's a couple links for the anchor page. First, leaving a voice message. Something we're really looking to hit in 2021.
Hit that button.
You got 60 seconds if you want to tell us your thought on an upcoming fight, I almost said upcoming news story, about a current news story.
If you've got any news that we're not aware of.
If you want to break news on the podcast.
Break it on the podcast. Yeah.
So, news stories, fight nights, give us your thoughts. We introduced in our last special episode, This or That.
Yeah, This or That.
That you can go on there and give us a prompt for This or That.
We'll do a This or That on.
We're really looking to hit that hard, so please go on there. If you want to tell us hi or say we're a piece of shit, you do it there. There's also a link if you want to become a supporter of the podcast. That just provides us with a few dollars a month. All that money goes back into improving the quality of the podcast, whether it be audio equipment or down the line doing a video podcast. So again, if you go to my bio on Twitter or Instagram at ntbaker_, you'll find it all there. But with that, we're out. And we'll see y'all on